Hi, I'm Victor Vogel, author of Creating a Bad Guy Free Zone While You Travel, and also my primary book, Creating a Bad Guy Free Zone. Uh, Both of these books deal with protection, but the one we're going to talk about today is the second uh, video in a series of videos on remaining secure and protecting yourself while you travel. Now, in order to do this, I think what I normally do is I'll just go ahead and switch over to my book and sort of walk down through each of the steps I have listed there. Now, these are not all the steps you need to take, but they're certainly the vast majority of things that you can do to protect and secure yourself. And most likely, there are going to be some things in here you never thought about. Let's just go ahead and switch on over to the book. Okay, we're going to start with transportation. As you can see from the page here in front, there's just a whole lot going on with transportation. So I'm going to go through it very quickly. I'm going to hit some of the highlights to catch all of these boxes. You can find them in the book, but I'll cover the highlights of each of these categories for you so you get a feel for your protection while you're traveling. And when we start out, we'll start out with how you get to where you're going and how you return. And basically, you've got to travel normally to an airport or train station or bus station to get wherever you're going. So many of these principles apply to all three of these categories. So if you're going to park, well, first of all, if it's at all possible and feasible for you, it makes sense to try to take a secure transportation vehicle to the airport and have them pick you up and return you home. Uh, this eliminates a lot of security issues at the airport. So when possible, find a reliable, secure transportation company that you can use that can take you to the airport. But if you do have to go to the airport and park your car, you want to make sure, and you're going to stay there, you want to make sure when you first pull up, going up to wherever you're going to be parking, that you do a quick review and scan of the area where you're going to be parking for any kind of suspicious persons or any kind of suspicious activity or any kind of suspicious objects that happen to be around that area. Uh, like boxes stacked up against a wall or something. These are not areas where you want to park if something like that is there. So just take a quick look around, and you can find in my book, Creating a Bad Guy Free Zone, how the average citizen can protect themselves. You'll find some things in there about suspicious behavior and suspicious activity that'll help you identify this stuff really quickly. If possible, park in a highly lit area. Criminals hate lights, and hopefully one that has security patrol. And if they don't have well lighted and they don't have security patrolling on a regular basis through those areas, then you and a lot of airports don't do that in their parking areas. They consider it on the grounds, but they don't necessarily run security through all of that parking lot on a regular basis. You might want to find an off-airport parking area that you can check out and validate they have very secure parking and that they have security while your car is parked there. Uh, so that's just some of the areas. If you use a valet service of any way to get to and from your vehicle, or they park your vehicle and bring it back to you, then you want to make sure you check your vehicle when they get it back. First, go on the outside, make sure they haven't done anything to the vehicle, but inside also check your glove compartment, check your console there, make sure nothing's in there. Uh, you may want to just look under your bumper a little front and rear bumpers just a little bit. A lot of times people will place GPS tracking systems on them if they happen to have an employee that's not the best qualified and secure employee. Baggage. Let's talk about baggage real quick. First of all, do not allow anyone other than people you trust at the airport security access to your luggage. Make sure you watch your luggage being screened and it goes through the screening process. Make a list of potential issues you think may be detainment issues and try to let your TSA agent know those in advance when you come up to be checked. Know what items could cause security problems. Don't take them with you. Don't carry pepper spray or stun guns or things like that. Yeah, first of all, you're not, unless you've checked your country, you're not sure whether they're legal in that country or not. Mexico, for example, virtually none of that stuff is. Never leave a bag, a purse, or package unattended. If you see any unattended packages in an airport or an area, a bus, train station, subway station, make sure you get a hold of the police and security. Do not hesitate. If somebody hasn't touched that or been around that package in 5 minutes or so, go find somebody in law enforcement, have them come over and check that bag and make sure that it's okay, because this is how terrorists tend to leave bombs laying around. That's what happened in the Boston Marathon deal. They just dropped a couple of backpacks off in front of the building and walked away from them. Nobody mentioned anything, and I'm sure somebody probably saw them do that. After arriving, go directly to your baggage claim, get your luggage, make sure it's your luggage, make sure no other person is touching your luggage. Never claim your, if possible, get as close to where it comes out of the bay as possible so you can watch it the whole time. Never claim luggage for a stranger, and never watch baggage for anyone you don't know. Watch your transportation driver load and unload your luggage if possible, and unload your luggage yourself if you can. Load or unload your luggage if you can. When you're in customs, understand you need to be friendly and cooperative. Most customs agents are very busy people. They're also trained to look for suspicious behavior. So unusually friendly conversations could be perceived as trying to distract them, and so they may consider that suspicious behavior. Make sure your passport receives a stamp and with the proper seal in the proper place on your passport. So if you know how to do that, that's fine. If you've never traveled with a passport before, then you make sure you look at your passport and understand how passports work and where those seals are supposed to be. Today, a lot of times they'll have a line that says stand behind this line to keep distance between who they're talking to and the next person. Stay behind that line. Don't let any person who is less security conscious push you in to going past that line. Don't try to smuggle anything. Don't try to bring anything back you have not declared on your form. Today is just not a very smart thing to do in this world, in this environment. When you're checking in, there's a lot you can do to help secure yourself, but also it's convenient. You can do TSA pre-check, pre-status check. There's a website in the book. It's listed here too. There's a fee for doing that. I think it's around $100 or somewhere close to that. And it just goes through a lot of questions and a lot of background checks on you before you get to the airport, so you don't have to go through a lot of stuff. You can go through a special line in a lot of cases, and it goes faster, and that's particularly important if you happen to be coming home from overseas. That works a lot faster also. Where possible, do advanced check-ins. Keep your luggage, your purse, your wallet, and everything close to your body, preferably in front of you where you can see it and you can feel it on your body. Don't become rushed by any less security conscious passengers. Let let them get in trouble for yelling and screaming. You be calm, collective when you're dealing with customs agents. Answer yes or no as much as possible. And where you're asked to give a brief description, make it brief. Don't offer any other information other than what's been asked for. If you're unfamiliar with the terminal, make sure you have clear directions to your gate before leaving. You do not want to appear to be roaming around an airport looking for something. That is suspicious behavior to law enforcement. Most major airports have websites and terminal information all about them, including the stores and stuff like that, restroom locations, etc. If you don't know, ask someone who works in one of the stores or at the ticket counter or a law enforcement or security officer. Keep all bags and luggage with you at all times. Never ever leave a bag unattended. Just a given rule nowadays. Ticket purchases, make sure your ticket's physically with you, in your hand, in a safe place. Do not show your ticket to anyone else. Do not hand it to anyone else for any reason. Verify all flight arrangements before leaving your terminal. Or for the terminal, keep your documents concealed at all times. If you lose your tickets, notify the ticket agents, and also notify a police officer or security officer and let them know that you lost your boarding pass or ticket. You can get a replacement from the ticket agent. It also lets law enforcement in that terminal know that if somebody tries to use that ticket, they know to respond quickly. When it comes to rental car arrangements, basically you're doing the same thing you do when you're parking. The difference is right here people make a lot of mistakes. They go up and there's no line like there is in customs to stand behind. So people crowd in around you, or maybe they're doing 2 or 3 people next to you at the same time. They're asking a lot of personal questions like where are you staying, when are you coming back, all those kinds of information. This is all information you need to try to keep secret as possible. So try to anticipate the questions that will be asked by someone. Carry a piece of paper, and they'll start to ask you a question, and simply push that across from them and say, I'd rather not answer this in public. Here's all the information you need to know. Please hand that back to me when you're done, along with the contract, and then you're on your way. And that way you don't have people knowing what hotel you're staying in, what room you're staying in, how long you're going to be there, how many days you're going to have the car, what kind of car you're going to have. That's all private information. When traveling to remote rental cars areas, make sure your luggage is in plain view when you get on the bus. Don't let anybody else handle that luggage. It's real easy for somebody to tag a piece of luggage with a GPS tracker if they've targeted you to be a robbery victim or a kidnap victim. When going to parking lot to retrieve or return your vehicle, scan the parking lot for suspicious behaviors. The basic same rules you do when you park your own car. It's better for you not to use the car's GPS tracking system. Just leave it off. You don't know who's been in there or what they might have done to try to monitor it. Use your own GPS tracking system. I recommend Waze, W-A-Z-E. They have both domestic and international, and you can pre-plan all of your trip routes in advance. That comes in very handy when you get into a cab or a rideshare service, or even a limo service. And you are and driver starts on a route that doesn't seem to be the right route. Excuse me. Sure that you have all the safety information, include phone numbers for the rental car agencies who you're going to talk to. If you have to use that, make sure when you talk to that agent you get the name of the company that's coming to help you and the name of the person or the driver that's coming, and then double check that when they get there. Make them prove not only that they're there for the car rental, but also they are who they say they are through their driver's license. when you're using public transportation, pre-plan your trip. I personally don't like using taxis at all, so I would say right now, I would recommend against that. But if you have to take a taxi cab, try to find one that you know is reliable and secure, has good ratings, particularly internationally, where possible, prearrange all your ground transportation. Now, let me tell you what happens when you prearrange and prepay it. It eliminates standing around, so you don't get observed by undesirable elements or actors. You eliminate any kind of money in the public being transferred. Your insured transportation company has a reputation for doing a thorough background check on their employees, and they have the proper liability insurance to cover you. You decrease your exposure to surrounding open environment areas. Now, that can also apply, as you'll find out here shortly, and I'll just tell you now, though, all of this pre-planning and prepayment can be done also for subways and trains, particularly in foreign countries, like the underground train from London to Paris. All that can be prearranged and prepaid for in advance. Most cab companies will not pre-screen all their employees with criminal histories the way they should. They say they do, but most of the time it's weak, if they do it at all, so you don't know who you're getting. If you're using a rideshare service like Uber or Lyft, I recommend highly you be cautious and alert and as suspicious as you are with taxi cab drivers, although they do offer you with Uber and Lyft the opportunity to have a picture of the person who's supposed to be picking you up, their license plate, and their name. Before you get in the car, or when you get in the car, before you leave, make sure you validate all of that information with that person. I'd rather hack them off by asking for their driver's license and get out if they get mad than be taken somewhere you don't want to be taken. If you're using bicycle transportation, a lot of times people go from the hotel, they'll take a bicycle for two, pedaled by a person. Same deal. Make those reservations in advance so you're not exchanging any money in the open. Make sure with all taxi cab drivers, Uber drivers, Lyft drivers, conversation stays basic. How's the weather? Where's the best eating places? Do not tell them where you're staying, if you like the hotel you're staying, any of that conversation. Just redirect it quickly back at them and say which hotels normally are the best hotels, or which are the best restaurants. How do you enjoy driving people? Keep the conversation light but focused on them and not you. There are a lot of people in this world that use those kinds of people to preset kidnappings and robberies. And we'll get into the different types of kidnappings that are out there. It doesn't have to be a physical kidnapping. Same way about subways and trains. Pre-plan them. Know the information in advance. Know the routes that they're taking. And know all that information. Know the busy times. Try to stay away from the busy times. The same information I talked about for taxis, etc., goes for limo drivers, although this is the preferred mode of transportation I prefer, particularly when I'm international, primarily because I know what's going on with these people. You have a better chance of getting ratings on them and finding out how good they are, etc. When it comes to buses, the same way. If you can prearrange any kind of payment plans, that's possible. Well, I tend to try to avoid buses if possible, but sometimes they're necessary just to go short distances. You just want to be alert when you get on and keep all your valuables close to you and in front of your body so you can see them well, particularly if things are crowded. So that covers pretty much all of transportation. Next time we're going to talk about hotels, emergencies, and first responders. And I think you'll find that very interesting. Like this that we just covered, there's probably some things you haven't thought of and some things that you may feel are a little over the top to protect you because nothing's ever happened to you. But trust me, if something did happen like the London Bridge terrorist attack or the Nice terrorist attack in France, you having been pre-planned and thought through this stuff and having all this information that's in this book available to you will eliminate a lot of frustration and possibly keep you from being harmed. So just keep that in mind. And next time we'll talk a little bit about hotels. I know this is a lot of information for you to absorb in a video, so that's why I price the book on Amazon.com fairly inexpensively. I think it's $7 or $8, $7.95, something like that. It's very inexpensive. You can carry it with you consistently. It's not a large book. It's something that'll fit in a purse or a briefcase real easy, which means you'll have information for your hospitals and your embassy and your transportation and all those kinds of things that you checked off. All that information there you can put in notes beside all on the book, which is always helpful. It really is helpful when you're traveling in there, because something is going to go wrong, even if it's not a security risk. Something's going to go wrong on a trip. I remember taking my daughter to London in 2006. We were going to take the underground train from London Station there over to Paris, but of course it stopped running that day, so we had to find an alternative route, and by getting that alternative route we knew the other alternative route, having pre-planned it, was a Dover, under the canal at Dover, which allowed us to come up at Calais, but we had to drive down through the countryside to Paris. Those kinds of things are things you want. You have all of the particular routes covered. You know what they are. You know their expense to them. You know how to get the information quickly. We were able to get online and book that alternative route quickly. We were able to book. The only inconvenience was there was no cars in London when we did that, so we had to go all the way back to Heathrow Airport to secure a car to go to Dover. But those are examples of things that happen, and it's not just terrorist or crimes. If you happen to be northern Italy and there was an earthquake and you had an injury from that earthquake because you were staying in a hotel that wasn't as well built as the ones in the States, you would know where the nearest hospital was. You would know if your insurance was covering that, or if you had to add that supplemental insurance I recommended in the last video. If you had that contact available to you. You could call the embassy right away and let them know that you're okay. Therefore, all your family, if they couldn't get through because of cell phones being down or whatever, your family would know that you're fine. They could check with the embassy. They would open up that envelope you gave them and say, okay, they know you checked the embassy. Here's the embassy's phone number. I'll check and see if they know anything. So stuff like this hardly ever happens. But lately, in the last few years, more than when I traveled, in the last few years, it's happened more and more. And so I just recommend this kind of pre-planning on all trips you make. Okay, we're going to cover hotels next time, hotel security and safety, and first responder and emergency situations like I just talked about. And until then, I'm Victor Vogel, and I will be out there creating bad guy free zones.